Itasca, Wisconsin. Anybody that grows anything, even if you, because I got you $28 billion from China. Excuse me. That was easy. Stuck with me, during that negotiation period. That was a rough period because they said $1 and we wanted $15 million for them to buy. But I misunderstood them. They said, sir, no, we have it for 15. I said, really? No, I said 50. I want 50. I thought you said 50. So I said, no, we said 50. I said, all right, I want 50. And we got 50. All of them. Wisconsin, great place, Wisconsin too. We actually won Wisconsin. They have to. Well, that's actually won, but it's a great place. Not their fault. We have a crooked system. Not their fault. They were angry. Everybody was angry. It was terrible. But we're going to do something that I think has never been done. One of the things that the best way to stop the cheating. They go for max, but they can only cheat so much. And we have some very good controls in place. But we delivered record increases because, it's actually the two questions I get most is, number one, how do you do it, sir? How do you do it? How do you wake up in the morning and do it? Speak up a little bit about the election. He's an insurrectionist. Take a look at what they've done to people, but they leave people in Portland that have destroyed it, the radical left. And the radical left is far more dangerous, in my opinion, than inflation, gas prices, and $1.87 a gallon. Remember I told you, go out, farmers are going to make a great deal with China. Everyone said we'll never make that deal, by the way. And I don't even talk about that deal because of COVID. It's just a step too far. I don't even discuss it. I talk about USMCA, I talk about a lot of things, the deal we made with South Korea, with Japan. I don't talk about it because it was the Wuhan lab, which I said right from using it, but it just seemed, we used to say Sleepy Joe, and we could call them both, but I think crooked Joe Biden is better, and I took it away from Hillary. Now we call her Beautiful Hillary, she's a beautiful woman. And we took beautiful woman, great.
Lock her up!
We took it away. And
lock her up!
Because to Joe, it does. But under Biden, the 30-year mortgage rate recently hit a 23-year high. I'm sure you're thrilled about that, those of you that are looking for finance. Under my leadership, it hit an all-time low in history. Talking about mortgage by having me as you. So you pick up 160,000 in a very short period of time. Now it's going to happen again, much bigger, because we're going to do things like we're going to close the wall. Build that wall! We've done 561 miles of wall. People hate to say that. There's a piece of wood laying in the ground. There's piece of steel that's 40 years old that used to be a little bit of a railing. They said that wasn't it. We're building these things to the exact specifications of exactly this. I said, we need all different materials. I said, that's a little more expensive, you know that, right? But we did everything they wanted, and then we have an anti-slip for you. And now, he said, let's go out and build a wall. When foreign say, how can anything? And don't kid yourself, the stupidity of Afghanistan. What China's so aggressive all of a sudden. I thought about that. We talked about it. They hated that I got along with it. Man, headlines. Trump says that President-in-Chief of China is smart, meaning it's a compliment. I said, no, what am I supposed to say? We've got a dummy. We have a legitimate dummy. All of us, we created the greatest economy in the history of the world. We got twice, we built back the economy. The stock market was actually higher when we handed off on January 20th. The stock market was higher than it was just before the China virus came in. I also fought for, and nobody did this. I fought for the farmers. There's never been a president that fought so hard for the farmers. And did so much for the farmers. And we ended in addition. How many people in this room are actual farmers? It's pretty good. Everybody's indirectly related. It's a to the what many say is the best trade deal, the USMCA, that's Mexico, Canada. And that deal is so good that Mexico and Canada are trying to renegotiate the deal now with the Biden administration. And I hope they're not going to be successful. So for years we had to suffer with NAFTA, then we make a great deal and they want to renegotiate the deal. They better not renegotiate. I'm totally against it. Then all of a sudden, politician, but I will say one thing, you always see with a politician, whatever they're in first, that's where they go. So he's coming, I heard he made one thing for sure. Go back, Ron also, and some of the others, but Ron, he wanted to raise the minimum age, and he wanted to toy with it, and he wanted to weaken it, and I said, these people, they deserve it. We can do other things, like we can make so much money by doing a thing called drill, baby, drill. We have more oil and gas than any country in the world. Most people don't know that, and it's very good, high quality, not like Venezuela. The whole thing is crazy. It's like April Fools. Everything's the same. We want open. You're gonna have like 15 rich people living in Venezuela with numbers that are going to be staggering. But Venezuela was ready to do an old fold, but buying their oil in numbers, anything for Iran, we were not allowing China to buy. I said, don't buy, because if you buy there, we're not going to let you do any business in the United States. They said, like I said, we won't buy. And they didn't, and we were ready to make a deal with Iran. Had the election not been turned out the way it did, but I'm trying to be nice here. Had it not turned out, the election not been rigged, we would have had a deal with Iran. We would have had no inflation. Russia would have never, ever in a million years gone into Ukraine, and they didn't. Somebody said, well, how do you know? I said, because for 4 years it wasn't even a thought. And I told Putin, you can't do it. And I told him what would happen if he did it. He said, no, you won't do that. I said, yeah, well, I will do 100%, Vladimir. You and I are friends. My father always used to say, take it for a long shot. I said, Vladimir, you and I are friends. We're good friends. But we go in, we're going to hit real hard. And I can't tell you what I told him because it would be kind of. There's no. And you know what? The end result, I did a poor job. He didn't believe me. But you know what? He believed me 10%, and that was enough. And he never went in. But there's another reason he wouldn't go in. You're close to 100. You were at $100 after a short period of time with Biden. This guy was making a fortune. They were making a fortune in Russia and other countries with the oil. With me, I was at $40 a barrel, $30 a barrel. We had times when it was actually lower. That's why I told you to go out and buy more land and bigger tractors. Remember that? I said, don't worry about it. The ones that did came out very well because I made all those deals for the farmers and for your state. But just think about it. With him, I said, two things. Number one, you can't do it. And number two, the oil price at $40 a barrel doesn't allow him to prosecute war because they make money, but not that much. And to make a lot of money, because right now they're making a tremendous amount of money. And isn't it interesting that Biden keeps talking about, Ukraine and all is Europe, which is right there. And you know, Europe is essentially the size of us if you add all the countries together. It's basically the size of the United States. So if you look at it, Europe, so they're at $25 billion. A good person would make that deal. Why would they do that? I did that with NATO too. You remember I said, no, wait a minute, everybody owes us money. They were delinquent. Almost every country pay, otherwise we're not going to protect you. And the head of a country actually stood up at a closed meeting, the press knew about it, very little reporting because it was too positive, and said, sir, does that mean that if we get attacked by Russia and we aren't paid up, you will not protect us? I said, yes, that's exactly what that means. Now, normally that would be a very controversial subject. The money, hundreds of billions of dollars came pouring in. And Secretary General Stoltenberg was the head of NATO, was dead, is now a good man. I don't know if he'd still say this, but he for his entire term trying to get other countries to pay and he couldn't. And when I came in, everybody was just, the money was pouring in like gravy, so it was a great thing. And that's the money they have right now. But now we're doing the same thing. All you have to do is ask. If I ask you, if I say, look, here's the problem. We're in for 200 billion and we have an ocean separating us, right? You're in for 25 billion and you have no ocean separating. Blah, 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 you know, those have, but if I say to pay up, they'll pay up. And they should equalize. They should $5 billion for, and I can tell you why, because we have stupid people representing us. And it's not a hard thing to sell. It's not a hard thing to sell. They understand it. Actually, I went to some countries and I got deals so easy. They said, we've been waiting for you. They just immediately agreed because it was so ridiculous. Japan, Prime Minister Abe was a great man. He was, as you know, a horrible thing happened. Shinzo, one of the people I like the most, and assassinated. Can you believe it? Assassinated. And he was an amazing guy. And I said, you know, Japan's really taking advantage of the United States, Shinzo. We have to do something. He said, I know. I said, what do you mean? He said, I know. Manufacturers and everybody else. I mean, we had a horrible deal. We ended up making it a fair deal, you know, a fair deal. A very good deal. They're tough to negotiate with, but a very good deal. He was a great guy. He was somebody that history, you know that, right? We got Mexico to give us free of charge 28,000. So you know when these characters say, "Oh, Mexico," when I say Mexico will pay for the wall, they did much more so than the wall. They gave us 28,000 soldiers for free. That's why we had the safest border in the history of our country. We had 28,000 soldiers while I was building the wall. And we were adding that other 200 miles. We would have had that done within 3 weeks. All we had to do is install the panels that were built. Those are the ones you see sitting all over the ground. It's horrible. When I look at that, when I look at all of those things that we did, and then I just see the destruction that there's never been a president in the history of our country that's done a job so poorly, that's been so incompetent, so corrupt. There's never been anything like it. And I say, oftentimes, I'll say, you'll let me say, you could take the 5 worst presidents in the history of our country, and they will have done, you can add them up, and they will not have done the damage that crooked Joe Biden has done. And I mean that 100%. And now I could add it, I think I could probably say, take the 10 worst presidents. Really loves him is Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter said this.
Oh my
Thank you. I got that thing off my back. I think Jimmy Carter. Crooked Joe Biden. So it's nice, you know, pretty old, and he's got a consultant somewhere. This is the worst. Time at the beach. You know, how do you do that? And you know, I have a much better body. body than him. Exposing with the sun glaring down and sand, the surf, the wind, it's not a pretty sight. And they make those chairs, they're actually miracles. They weigh like 3 ounces. They're meant for a child to carry. A child or a very old person to carry. Very, very old. I mean like really old. And they weigh like, ounces, right? He can't lift it. Remember what he said? I'd like to take him to the back of the bar. I think I can go like this.
Knock him out!
I hit a long ball in golf. Good golf for all that stuff. This guy, I could hit a drive. It would take him 4 shots to catch up to where my drive is. But he used to talk about how he wants to take me to the back. And no, the press was sick people. But if you want a president who leaves $500 million worth of wall materials, think of this, rusting in the desert, rusting in the sand, while illegal aliens stampede into your communities, walking over those panels, just walking right over them. They're laying there rusting and rotting, brand new, beautiful stuff. And you should vote for Crooked Joe Biden. If, on the other hand, you want a president who will seal the border, and by the way, let people come into our country, but they have to come in legally. Is that okay? And reclaim our sovereignty on day one, and that's what we will do. We will, because right now we don't even have a nation. Between our bad elections and our open borders, you need borders and you need elections, and then you start going from there. And we have horrible open borders. Who would even think of it? The people coming in. And jails, there is a slight difference. They're from mental institutions and insane asylums. There is a slight difference. Insane asylum is like Silence of the Lambs stuff. That's serious stuff. That's Hannibal Lecter. How good an actor was he? How good an actor was he? Did he play a good role, right? But insane asylums, they're emptying them out. Mental institutions, and then of course terrorists are coming in. And in 2019, so now you get into places, but in particular in this case colleges, you have good marks and somebody has bad marks, you get in. Before, other people got in for all sorts of reasons. They approved of marriage. Something that when politicians learn how to talk about it, they end issues which don't know. I watch some of the politicians, some of your local politicians actually talking about because they'll kill a baby. In some cases, after birth. You remember the crazy former governor of Virginia, where he was explaining what happens, and then if it's after the 9th month and the baby is born, you put the baby aside, you discuss with the mother, and if the mother doesn't want the baby, we execute the baby. This is part of their So they're the radicals. You have to say that. They always make the pro-lifers the radicals. They're the radicals. And when you think, I happen to be like Ronald Reagan, the exceptions. Rape, incest, the life of the mother. The exceptions, 3 exceptions. I happen to be there. I think 75% or so, I see polls, I don't know. You have to follow your heart. But very hard to win elections without that, to be honest. Very hard to win. But you have to be able to speak about the subject. What happened was an incredible thing. They've been trying to get it for 52 years. They failed. For 52 years exactly, they've been trying to get it terminated. Because you have 2 sides to every year. You have people with other views, but we have a very strong view. But we have no power whatsoever until I came along. So you have now massive power to negotiate. And remember again, you have to say, you have to follow your heart, but the exceptions, but you have to say, and it's so important, you have to say, they are the radicals, we are not the radicals. You can't kill, one thing every poll says, regardless of what side you're on, and it's very even, it's about 49-51, and then it's 51-49. It switches over the years. This has been decades it switched. But you have to be able to say what's in your heart. You have to be able to fight for that issue if you believe in that issue. And a lot of people believe in that issue, but now for the first time you have tremendous power to talk and to negotiate. The one thing the polls all say is that after the 4th month, or at least a certain number of months, everybody, no matter how much on the other side of the issue they are, don't want to see the baby killed. Roe v. Wade, they could execute the baby at any time. You remember what I said with the debate? You ripped the baby out of the womb with Hillary. I said she's willing to rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month, and the whole place winced. Even she winced. Because nobody wants to see, after a certain time, any time, but after a certain time, almost 100% of the people agree in the. But the 9th month and after birth, they don't want to see that happen. They don't want to see that take place. So when you speak about it properly, perhaps like I just spoke about it, I don't know, but when you speak about it properly, otherwise it's been a very devastating issue. That's what happened in the midterms. You had politicians that had no idea how to talk about the issue. It was new. It was shocking because nobody thought it would happen. I got that for you. And I got that for a lot of people that they consider that to be the greatest achievement. But I just say, speak about it properly, speak about it right. It's an amazing thing that happened. And now you have tremendous powers of negotiation. Other people look at him and say, I don't care what he's saying. That's the guy that got us here to talk in the first place. Because nobody else. So you're going to speak about it. You're going to speak about it properly and intelligently. It's a very, very complex issue and all. But we did a tremendous thing. Because remember, nobody, at a certain period of time, nobody wants to see death to those babies. Nobody.
Abolish abortion.
The most radical.
That's what we need to do.
People on the other side. Mm-hmm. The Hamas terrorist invasion of Israeli territory, and the murder of Israeli soldiers today, and the brutal murder of citizens is an act of savagery that must and will be crushed. It has to be dealt with very powerfully. This is a time where the United States needs leadership. We don't have leadership. But Israel is at war, and the United States obviously giving and gave to Iran $6 billion. Wow. $6 billion. Over hostages. Over hostages. And, there was a very good trade. They got 5 hostages. We got 5 hostages. Okay, that's the good news. The bad news is, and their hostages were tough, by the way, I have to tell you. That was, okay, let's assume they're doing just fine. But it was 5 for 5. But in addition to that, we agreed to free up $6 billion. And I would not be at all surprised if part of that tremendous wealth that they just accumulated went into all of a sudden watching this level of aggression. They didn't have that level of aggression with me. They didn't have it. This would have never happened with me either. You know what wouldn't have happened? Ukraine wouldn't have happened. Taiwan and all the stuff talk about Taiwan wouldn't have happened. And what's going on with Israel right now? People were shocked. I wasn't shocked. Because 2 weeks ago we gave them $6 billion. Think of it. So we get 5, they get 5, but the difference is we have to give $6 billion. $6 billion! Does anyone know what a billion is? $6 billion. It's like it's water. And we have now our country is perceived, we're really a country that's sort of this tremendous perceived weakness with a grossly incompetent and corrupt president. He's an incompetent man. He's corrupt. I don't know if he makes it to the starting gate. I guess in a way he does. We want to. And I say it all the time, and I mean it 100%. I would rather that Joe Biden right now, instead of being one of the worst presidents, and I think without question, the worst president, the most corrupt president, the most incompetent, I would rather have him be a great president. Doing this, either that or we wouldn't win. But if he were a great president and our country was doing well and we were respected throughout the world and we were being looted by hundreds of people that broke their houses and their pensions and all of that, and they could stop it very quickly. And we just allow them to roam in and roam out. Everybody's out there. You have cameras. These same cameras are out there shooting these people walking out with television sets. Then you announce these big department stores and drug chains are leaving the city. You look at what's gone on with New York and San Francisco and Chicago and Los Angeles. And all, they have one thing in common. They're run by liberal Democrats that they don't want to do anything to murderers. They leave murderers alone. Like we have an attorney general of New York. She's grossly incompetent. She's an evil person. She's a terrible, terrible attorney general. People, businesses are fleeing. She goes after Trump, but she doesn't go after murderers all over the place. And we have to get that. We just have to get that changed. So if you think about it, 4 years ago, we did something that was, everyone said Trump was going to get the Nobel Peace Prize. I said, no, I won't, because they won't do that. They gave it to Obama immediately upon taking office. And he actually said he has no idea what he got it for. I did more deals to save people's lives, but I did something called the Abraham Accords with some tremendously talented people. And had the election been on the up and up, we would have had that whole thing would have been signed, sealed, and I think I would have had Iran in there too. I think you would have had massive peace, but the Abraham Accords is a phenomenal thing. But think of it, so 4 years ago we had the Abraham Accords, and today we have Israel being attacked, viciously attacked. It's a big deal. It was a big attack with a lot of dead people all over the place. Who would think that? And the only difference is, I believe, it's the difference between one president and another president. And there are many other things. You wouldn't have inflation because energy caused inflation. And this guy stopped. You wouldn't have Ukraine because at $30 and $40 a barrel, he wouldn't be able to afford it. But I say much more importantly, he wouldn't have done that to me. I told him not to. He can't do it. Can't do it, Vladimir. And he wouldn't have done it. But even if he wanted to, he wouldn't have been able to, at $30 or $40 a barrel, wouldn't have been able to prosecute that war. Wouldn't have been able to do it. And you wouldn't be having all the problems that you have right now with China. China's become very hostile. They weren't hostile with me. They weren't hostile with me. They call me sir. They don't call him sir. You know what they call him? Can you imagine what they say about him after he leaves? They say, do you believe that? They think it's a trick that I'm playing on them. They think I'm playing a trick. Because we were doing very well with China. They gave us hundreds of billions of dollars. Not one president in this country, not one, got 10 cents from China. Many presidents, not one. I got hundreds of billions of dollars.
Marco!
Obliterate the deep state. We did a lot of work on that. We got rid of Comey and a lot of guys. And then we got the whole thing with that dust flying over from China. We had to do it, but we're going to get rid of the deep state. They're bad. They're hurting our country. You look at what they're doing with weaponization, and now it's politics. It's let's indict Trump or whoever it may be. You know, I mean, that would mean that if I were elected and I had somebody hot on my tail, and we're beating him by a lot. I say, you know, that guy's doing really well. Indict him for something, very easy. You know, indict him for walking across the street incorrectly. It's indicted, he's out of the race. Now, the nice part about my indictments is they've driven us up because people realize they're fake and phony and they're political. I'm the only man in the history of politics in the United States of America who got indicted 4 times You know Al Capone? Did anybody ever hear of Alphonse Capone? He was a seriously vicious gangster. He didn't get indicted 4 times, only once. And I got, my whole life I never heard the word practically, and all of a sudden within a few weeks it's like, man. And how about going home? First lady, I have a little news for you. What? I just got indicted. Or they intend to indict me because I called the election rigged. They wrote books about it. And what about Hillary? What about all the Democrats about what they said about 2016? They, to this day, they've got very quiet lately. Do you notice that? They've got very quiet lately. No, I'm the only person that ever got indicted whose poll numbers shot up through the roof because the people.